And hello, welcome to Demystifying Game Art. And I personally named it Down the Rabbit Hole. It is an introspective on the art and game development. So this is going to be a really casual, candid sharing. Get comfy. Definitely stay hydrated. Have a drink nearby. Maybe some snacks. I don't know. And yeah, as Anu briefly mentioned, during this hour, I'm going to go through my personal journey to the industry and give like a brief overview on a 3D game art pipeline. And following that, I'll be sharing a framework on how to go about career planning, as well as the resources and next steps that you can take on the path to being a game artist. And I'm going to round it off with a Q&A. So at any point of time, if you have any question at all, type it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer it during the middle of my presentation and towards the end. Okay, so let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Jewell. I'm a 3D artist at Ubisoft, and I'm currently working on the game Skull and Bones. I have a huge heart for games with rich world building and narrative, and two of my favorite games are Undertale by Ubisoft and Zelda Breath of the Wild. And actually, whenever I meet new people, I tell people, oh, I actually have a career in games. Everyone's like, wow, oh my god, that's so cool and unexpected. And I think as far as jobs goes, it's definitely leaning more towards the unconventional sort. And so how do I find myself going down this particular path? And it all started from this and this. And this. And basically, I was a huge nerd. I was the girl in class that was obsessed about anime, manga, Japanese music. I loved cartoons. And I was part of this like interclass nerd group clique thing. And although the word clique makes us sound really exclusive, but we're not really really cool or anything. We're just very normal. And I definitely wanted to show you this. And this is a stack of sketchbooks I found while cleaning out my room. And they were all done during secondary school, all of these sketchbooks. And man, I am going to show you some of their content. So please bear with me on any secondhand embarrassment that you might feel. And the reason why I want to show this to you is because this is my humble origin story. So there we go. You thought this presentation was gonna be easy, but no, I am gonna force you to look at my terrible drawing. And this talk is recorded, so I guess this is gonna be on the internet forever now. Anyway, I got really into games as well, especially with the boom of Let's Play videos on YouTube. I didn't exactly have a console or a good computer, and YouTube was the window for me to watch games. And I watched so much PewDiePie and Markiplier and Cryotic, and probably more YouTubers that I've just forgotten about already because it's been so long ago. And there were all sorts of games out there. And what was really popular at the time were rage-inducing games like Flappy Bird and Happy Wheels, and horror games like Amnesia, Corpse Party. And so while I did really enjoy watching that, my favorites were still the narrative-driven ones with really, really fantastical worlds. And one video game in particular that I loved watching was this one called BioShock Infinite. It has a really interesting flying city that lives atop the clouds. And the culture of the people there was like tied to, it was like a combination of American patriotism and religion. And to me, that was really compelling. The story was very complex. It was confusing. So afterwards, I would go onto the Wikipedia pages. I'd read about all the characters and the lore, and also read about BioShock 1 and 2, which were the games previous to BioShock Infinite. And this was the starting point. When I was 12, I fell in love with stories. They transported me to another world, and they were like a protective amulet that I carried around with me. They were my happy place that I thought about, where I felt at home with, and I grew together with the events, the characters, and whenever the stories end, it's just like there's a little hole in my heart. And I'm sure you all have experienced these feelings one way or another, whether it be from games, from anime, from webcomics, movies, TV series, cartoons. And there probably is like a story or show or game or anime in your head right now. And yes, I invite you to type in chat. I invite you to type in chat or even say out loud. Nowadays, I love watching Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan. That's really another one. There's the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie that's recently come out. And let's see, where is the chat? Oh my goodness! I'm just looking through and oh, thank you. Yes. Oh, thank you for seeing the nice drawings. You guys are so sweet. All right. And it's okay, if it's hard to like speak out in front of a group or anything, you can just come on in on your own time when it's right for you. No pressure. So during J2, I went to JC, and during J2 I had to think about my strengths and what career I wanted to do. Like, do I go to uni? Do I go to poly? Or some other school? How do I figure out what career I wanted to do? And I didn't feel happy writing any more essays. I was a humanities student. I took like literature, history, economics, and so we had to write a lot. And I couldn't imagine myself doing any more of that. I was like a pretty average student. I couldn't seem to do exceptionally well no matter how hard I tried. And that's how it is sometimes, I was also the person that was always picked to represent the class in anything art related. So this is like a running thing since secondary school. Class t-shirts, notice boards, teacher's day cards, art competition, you name it, then I'll be there. Everyone will be like, hey, that one over there, she will do it, And it seemed like it was a strength of mine, and everyone had faith in me to carry the class. And I felt happy doing art. People liked my art. And I decided to lean into that. And it was definitely hard because all of my friends were going to NUS or the other local, like more popular unis, and pursuing various liberal arts degrees because we're a humanities school. We were from a humanities class. And actually a lot of them were going overseas. And they were all going for careers that I think are definitely more socially encouraged. They're the sort of careers that anyone's grandma can understand and feel proud of. And I was still very much inspired by stories and animation series. At that point of time, animation was a big part of my heart. And I love bonding with the characters. I love seeing them grow. I wanted to create cartoons that kind of represented 13 to 17-year-olds and show them creating friendships, overcoming obstacles, learning and growing. And so I decided to enroll into Digipen, which is a university that was gonna teach about animation and games. And I wanted to join it to learn animation actually. And this is my first step down the rabbit hole. So at Digipen, oh man, it was so hard. It was so hard because I didn't know a thing about Photoshop or any digital art program. And during my first semester, I could barely keep up, and I think I did quite badly. And this was like the first semester. It's supposed to be the semester where they ease you into the more rigorous semesters, right? And like, yo, just check this out. Like, this is Photoshop, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many buttons and everything. It's so confusing. Along with 3ds Max, I'm like, oh, there's like all these knobs and sliders, and I had a lot of catching up to do. And but nonetheless, I think I had some level of art intuition. And I think this is actually a skill that anyone can develop on their own time. So it's basically you just look at a piece of art and you think about what you like about it, what you dislike about it, how would you change it to suit your taste. And I think this helps to build the baseline of my fundamentals. And so from there, I could keep improving. And my love for stories and world building just kept me going. So yeah, I managed to improve. I managed to buck up quite a bit and improve quite a bit. And during my time in Digipen, I wanted to make the most of my education. And I know that this was a game school as well. And I loved games at that time. I was still watching all the playthroughs. I still didn't have a very good laptop for anything new. But I was very interested to join a game team. So I went up to the programmers and the designers like, hey, I'm here. maybe you want some art. Would you like some art? You can hire me. Can I join your team? Yeah. So, and I found out that I love making games. It engulfed my world. It was all I talked about. I would spend so much time, doing all my art classes. Like I had storyboarding class, animation class, illustration class. But when I was doing all of my assignments on the other screen, I'm just playing any video game essay I could find to just learn everything there is on the internet about video games, and I just like consumed all of its content. And I really wish I could have shown you my very first works at uni, but I tried finding them, but I couldn't find them anymore. So instead, I'm just going to present the game project that I worked with the team that I mentioned. And it's a VR game where you control planes and prevent them from crashing into each other. So it's like a flight control simulation. And here's like some of the environments that me and one other artist did. I worked on mostly the natural part of it, so the landscape, the trees, as well as the composition, whereas my friend helped with all the buildings. And yeah, this was like some paint of the environment concept art, some props that we had to model as well. And you can see the room over here. This is another part of the environment. It's basically supposed to look like a kid's tree house, If being a flight control professional was your thing, how would the kids' room look like if that was something they're so interested in? And here is some snippets of the game. You can see, and I didn't mention it was VR, so you can see the hands moving about, controlling the plane, preventing them from crashing. There's gonna be like weather, there's gonna be freezing, and yeah, so this is the mechanic. And next up, I graduated. I took a gap year because I was quite tired, and I went on to attend some game conventions in Australia. I got really inspired by the atmosphere and of the thriving indie game section. I got in touch with like the local communities by attending game dev events, meetups, and I spoke to many people that all love creating games. And about speaking to people, I think I was quite anxious for it back then, and now honestly I'm still kind of anxious, I would say. And but perhaps I didn't speak to a lot of people, but even then I was already outside of my comfort zone. So to me, it counted a lot. And during this time, a small group of us wanted to come together to work on indie games. And so we came together as a team called Home Pomelo, and we developed games together, like just a small little demo. We released something called Irori, and it's something I'm still very proud of today. This is how it looks like. Yeah. And it's a cooking game where you cook skewers and you serve it to travelers aboard a train. Here are some floor plan sketches I did before modeling the environment. This is a 3D environment I modeled. And this is a looping multiplane side-scrolling background that you can see from the windows of the train. And then when you combine the 3D and 2D elements together, you can achieve this kind of 2.5D look. And here are some 3D models of the ingredients that I made. I really wanted to capture that anime food essence. Oh my goodness, you saw the demo! Thank you, Radia. And yeah, some of the NPC sprites, with their various reactions when you feed them. Are they gonna be happy? Are they gonna be sad? Some concept art I did. Originally, this character was supposed to be a human prince, but I decided to turn him into a bird prince. Yeah, and I think he really has a lot more character with that. And some early concept to visualize the mechanics, foraging mechanics. We were thinking about doing that, although the scope was way too big, so it's never something we pursued. But yeah, I hope you can see from this that there are many different components that go into a small indie game, and just imagine how it's going to be like when you're working in a huge company, and just imagine all the different types of artists coming together and working together. So after coming back from Australia, I was so inspired by the richness and depth of the indie scene, and I really wanted to build the local scene in Singapore. And in particular, I wanted to enrich our scene by encouraging folks to lean into personal experiences, personal stories, and expression. I had two good friends that shared those feelings as well, and we formed Sagakaya, the Sagakaya Collective. And besides enriching the local game scene, we want to push for games as an art form. And with that, we organized the Heritage Game Jam, that runs annually. So over here we have Jewell Koh, who is also a chairman of SCGA and co-founder of Imba Interactive. And we also on the right most, we have Jedi, who is the the founder of Outer Culture Studios. So yeah. And Jedi I met in DigiPen, so it's like, past DigiPen, you still maintain that connection with people, right? And you can create projects together afterwards. So yeah, this is Heritage Game Jam, just some posters. It's a 7-day game jam competition. We've done 2020 and we've also done 2021. I just showed the 2020 poster here. And our official tag is kind of like promote games as a creative platform to celebrate Singaporean identity and encourage civic discussion and inquiry. Yeah. And here are some snippets of the games that people made. Wow. I always super happy when I see this. There's all sorts of games with there as well, and they all had a Singaporean element to it, and I just love that. And yeah, I continue working on my technical skill and learned more about 3D modeling. So over here, it was my first time. You've seen my stuff just now. I've only done really stylized stuff. So I really wanted to just get better at this because I've always liked 3D art and never had the time to really pursue it. I spent 4 months by myself just learning how to build this character. Yeah, just one character. It took me almost every day. I working towards this, sculpting it, putting on clothes, and doing the hair, everything. Yeah. So and you can tell that a lot has happened, even though I wasn't necessarily in school at that time. And I've already graduated by that point. So, I managed to find some ideas on how I could continue growing outside after I left school. And then I applied and got into Ubisoft. Applying was hard. Man, it sounds like everything was hard. But I think applying was stressful because, the first time you enter the industry, there's no one hand-holding you anymore. And Ubisoft is one of our leading game companies. And it isn't absolutely easy to get into. So I'm just glad I managed to improve my skills and apply as a 3D artist and managed to get in. And it has been a year and 6 months. A year and 9 months. And at Ubisoft, I am a 3D artist. And I often say I work on the bridge of art and tech. On one end of the bridge, you have the concept artists who are just throwing out amazing, beautiful designs and sometimes crazy ideas. And that's actually sometimes what you want, to push the art. And on the other hand, we have tech folks who work to execute the vision, to keep us in check with limitations so that the game can run smoothly, functionally. And so with many, many others, I am in the middle of this. And I help to bridge this collaboration between art and tech, because I think that's pretty much games, art, tech combined. Yeah. And I had to learn about a AAA graphics pipeline. And it was more technical and complex than anything I've ever been exposed to. And much of my time here, I felt out of my depth. Thankfully, I had a super, super supportive team. And sometimes, it was so much that by the end of the day, I could feel my brain just steaming. But I felt so excited to learn more about optimization and pipelines. And because I had to communicate with many different people, my skills in communication increased, and I learned how to conduct myself a bit more professionally, tell people information effectively. And it was challenging, but it was a good challenge. Yeah, so that's roughly my story on how I entered the industry. Okay. So right now, I just want to share a brief overview on a simplified game art pipeline so that you can have a general understanding on how simple 3D models can be made. And the asset that I will be sharing is something I use in my personal game, Irori, which you saw earlier. And we'll start off with ideas and concepts, then move over to the modeling process. Then we'll paint the model and have a game-ready asset. And we'll see the result in the game. So I'm just going to play this video. Okay, we start off with a mood board. It's so helpful to gather all your visual references in one location, and I love using Pinterest. These flowers are so nice because they're hand painted, and these foods look extra cozy. And for our game, we're cooking skewers, and I took references to some of these Japanese menus, and just look at how shiny this is. And I want my food to look so tasty. And here's a snippet of the concept I did for various fantasy ingredients. And we'll be modeling a mushroom today. So I'm just going to skip the concepting phase altogether since it's just a mushroom. With the modeling stage, you start off with a cylinder, because I think mushrooms are kind of structured cylindrically. Now I'm just adjusting its proportions, adding edge loops to add details and curves. And it's important to model with multiple views, as I think it really helps to speed up the process like this. And right now, I'm going to be deleting some of the segments that I just modeled to create a slice. And then I will mirror the slice radially using symmetry tools. And this way, I only need to work on that one slice and have the rest of the segments just follow suit. And that helps just speed things up. So you can kind of see, like, when I just select one thing, the whole ring also moves. So right now I'm just going to cut. You can see how I cut this like little cross section at the top of the mushroom there. Yep. So that helps speed things up. And yeah. The next step is we will move on to unwrapping the model, and this step prepares our model for painting. So you can see the unwrapping tool on the right hand side. By unwrapping the model, we essentially create a peeled and flattened 2D version of the 3D model that you can see on the right side of the screen. And if you don't quite get that, it's okay. I understand completely. It will make more sense in just a bit. So now you can see me creating like these red and green themes in the model. And I'm using a tool to create the flattened 2D version, and we call this a UV template. And we will use this template as a guide for painting. Yeah, so yeah, you can see I am going to now organize everything I've cut. This is the flattened version of the model over here. And I think the next step would, I would now export the template, and we're just gonna head on over to Photoshop after exporting. Yeah, exporting that. So you see I've exported this. Photoshop, all right, great. And so you're gonna see me draw like a smiley face on the mushroom cap. And then when I save this image, right, it would just automatically map onto my 3D model. See? Ta-da! Yeah. So maybe you see the correlation a bit more clearly now. So next up is painting, and in the industry we actually use the term texturing, and it's something I've already done for the mushroom. So I'm just like switching my layers on and off, to just show you how it looks like. And that's the uncooked version, and this is how I painted this cooked version. I made it a bit darker, made it a bit more shiny, just like the references we saw on Pinterest. And there you have it. So that's the cooked version. Oh yeah. So and then there it is in the game. But of course you have to pass it off to the integrators or the programmers. And in this case it was the game designer and our small team of 3. And yep, those are our assets in action. They currently have the uncooked texture, and then over time they crossfade to the cooked texture. Although to be fair, it's kind of hard to see because we went for a really cozy lighting and it's kind of dark and dim. So we actually supplemented this by adding VFX. So you start seeing sparkles, and which would kind of just tell the player, hey, I'm done, I'm ready. And it's not done yet. Just give it a bit more time. So yeah, it's like I did the 3D I did basically all the art assets you see here, including the VFX. And yeah, there you have it. That's kind of like a super brief run through of a simplified process. Okay, so in summary, you start off with the concept, you do the modeling, then you do the texturing, and then you do the unwrapping, then you do the texturing. And there's actually more ways to texture. Like one of the industry standard, I would say nowadays, is using Substance Painter, which helps you kind of paint the model in 3D. But I kind of just wanted to show the Photoshop since I was going along with the assets I did from a while back. But again, after that, you hand it off for integration. And honestly, a lot of artists these days are so self-sufficient, and they learn how to integrate some of the basic things as well. So if you want to be a bit more techy and help put it into the game, you can also ask like your friends, or rather the designers, programmers, or integrators to teach you how to integrate stuff. Okay. So at this point, it is halfway point of the presentation, and I'm going to just take a look at the chat to see if there are any questions. And it's been quite a while, so stay hydrated, drink your water, stretch your legs. Okay, let's see. What's your YouTube channel? Oh, I have a YouTube channel, but I don't really post much content on it. So I'm not gonna. Okay, I'll just tell you. It's Jewell Koh. Pop is Popp, and it is my stepdad's surname. And but I don't really post anything on it. So please don't. You please do not subscribe. It's okay. Will I send a recording? Will you send us a recording of session? Yes, yes, we will. This doesn't look like Blender, should be Maya. It is 3ds Max. Although Blender and Maya, perfect softwares. Like Blender, especially, it's free. That's so godsend. And Blender now it's like able to do so many things, and it's all like I think it's like a bunch of people just developing this tool together. So that's incredible. What software do you use to design your models? I use mostly Photoshop. Yeah, I mean, because I just usually just draw it out. I don't use any conceptual tool. I just have a blank canvas and I draw it out. Okay, and sorry, there's just like a lot of questions, and my eyes are like, whoa. Okay, what's that? How do you start learning art then progressing to 2D and 3D game art? Did you ever consider working at a local indie company instead? How do you start learning art? Okay, for this one, these are definitely longer questions. So I'm going to reserve some of these big ones to the end of the Q&A session, okay? All right, just going to look through this. Yes, talking about education, all of that. I will address that towards the later part during our career planning section. Okay. All right. I hope you guys got that cup of water that I was mentioning about. I'm so naggy about this whole hydration thing. You know, I'm just gonna take a sip myself. Okay, and we are going to move on. I wanted to ask y'all some questions actually, which is in line with the next segment. And once again, you feel free to type or unmute yourself. That's all good. What are some careers that are interesting to you and that you consider exploring? And you don't have to say game art. You can it can be you know, anything, even non-related to games. I just kind of want to get a sense for where we're all at. Once again, if you're too shy to say, that's okay too. Wow, acting! That's so cool. I wonder if it's gonna be theater or on TV. Usually, like the theater and TV people, they're like different spheres. Anything that includes some form of art, maybe animation. Okay, so you're creative through and through, Valerie. And 3D artist! Yay! Join me! Okay. Game programming student right now. Oh, wow. That's so cool, yeah. Thanks for joining us on a more art-related talk as well. You know, sometimes I think it's so important for programmers to also know and understand the certain obstacles that the game artists face, and vice versa. You know, this way people can work together much more efficiently. Storyboard artists or concept artists, Brienne. Lovely. Oh, so that's like very heavy on the ideas, very design heavy. Game development possibly, if not just being engineering. Oh, damn it. Okay. But fair enough. Like honestly, engineering, I can imagine it's super rewarding because you're gonna be like coming up with tech solutions every day. It's gonna be like, wow, a puzzle, and it's gonna feel good when you create something that benefits all of us. Game director, graphic sound designer. Oh, okay. So we have audio person in the house. Animation, sketching, painting or sketch. Okay, I'm so happy to see so many artists here. Game art. Game art. Oh, but programming is better. Okay. All right, 3D art, animation. Oh, it's human anatomy. That's interesting. Yeah, I love studying human anatomy. I'm always the sort of person like, oh yes, that's the masseter that you're pointing at, or that's your, I don't know, sartorialis muscle, or your zygomaticus. Okay, anyway. Game design, story. Ah, okay, lovely. So it's kind of like going at it from the more design angle, with the narrative, with like designing quests, levels. That's so nice. Okay, so thank you so much for all the replies. I'm terribly sorry there's some that like my eyes just like skipped through. I'm gonna move on to the next part of our talk, career planning. And thank you so much for sharing with me all of the curious. It's so nice to just read your replies. So when I was your age, although I'm not exactly sure how old you guys are, I think you guys might be in secondary school. I'm guessing teenagers, upper teenagers. Okay, anyway, I think I didn't have that many resources that helped to determine what I wanted to do in life as a career. Like, what do I prioritize in life? What are the changes when I get older? And what if I make the wrong long-term choice? And honestly, I personally think that the system that many people are brought up in, and not just in Singapore, but all over the world, often prematurely forces youth to make decisions with long-lasting impact. And I don't think it's an ideal system at all, and it can be pretty stressful. And the ability to take things at like a comfortable pace is a privilege that not everyone can afford. So I kind of wanted to, well, rather, I really wanted to share with you certain guiding ideas that can possibly help frame your thinking and help you find happiness in your career. And something that really helped me was the Japanese concept of ikigai. And it was something I came across during uni. And this framework originates from Japan. It can help spotlight you to your ideal career that keeps you nourished and happy. So as I'm going through the 4 components of ikigai, you probably will start thinking and sizing up the dream job that you have in your head, the one that maybe you mentioned earlier. And yes, I invite you to put that dream job that you're thinking about to the ikigai test. Okay, so when you see this Venn diagram, I think you can start seeing how this framework works. And according to the guide, your purposeful and ideal career is found in the middle. It is called like achieving ikigai, and it's something that you love, something the world needs, something you can be paid for, and something that you're good at. So starting with something that you love, it is a straightforward one, an activity that you love, that gets you excited, keeps you engaged and present. Perhaps you feel it when you create, when you draw, when you design, when you express yourself. Or maybe like many of my programmer friends, you find a joy in solving a hard puzzle. And actually something that there's actually something in common, like solving hard puzzles that I think lots of concept artists also share when they tackle visual design puzzles every day. So I'm sure that there's an activity that you're picturing right now, and don't feel guilty if it's something kind of supposedly mundane, like eating, if you love eating. If you feel strongly about it, if you have a huge passion for food, I don't know, maybe you'll be an excellent food blogger, you know, who knows? The next component is a bit trickier, and that is something the world needs. And as humans, we're very social creatures. I think it's actually, it's hardwired in us to want to find belonging and to contribute in some way to the community. We feel good when people appreciate the things we do. So, for example, I mentioned, you know, when I was in school, I was very much chosen to contribute to all the art things, and people relied on me for that, and I felt good doing that. So yeah, and it doesn't have to be something super pragmatic and serious, like, or serious goal, like you know, ending world hunger, curing cancer. People need other things too, like beautiful experiences to color their lives, and there is so much value in art to do that. Funnily enough, while we're on this topic, it reminded me like of this time last year, or was it 2 years ago? You know, the Straits Times, they released an article citing artists' jobs being non-essential. And yeah, I get that we don't need art to survive, but I think we need art to be happy and thrive. So yeah, I do think it's very important still. People need it. So the third component of ikigai is something that you can be paid well for. And I really like this point because I think it's extremely pragmatic. Something that you should be seriously considering in whichever profession you're interested in. So this is straightforward. We all need money to eat. We need to have a roof over our heads and occasionally spend on nice things like games. And having enough money, not having enough money can be very stressful. And I can imagine this is something that everyone here might be thinking about or even worried about. So the question is, what is a comfortable amount of money? It differs from person to person, right? There are so many factors to determine that amount as well. Like, oh, how much do your daily goods cost you? Do you have family members you want to support? Is there a certain lifestyle that you want to pursue? How much do you value luxury? And how disciplined are you with your money? And all these, are only questions you can answer yourself. And I guess some may say, the higher the better, more money better, right? But that's where the Ikigai test comes in, So we loop back to the other pillars. You ask yourself, well, will that well-paying career also be something that you love, that you can really see yourself doing for very, very long? Is this something that people need and appreciate and that will make you feel fulfilled? Yeah, so you can start seeing how this works. And lastly, the final component is that your career needs to be something you're good at. And at this stage in your life, I think that all of you have so much potential to shape and grow any skill. Yeah, maybe some of you are like, I'm really bad at like math or English, but nonetheless, it's like I feel that with the time and with the right teaching and with like energy. Sometimes we're just so tired, right? All of you have skills that are just waiting to be unlocked. And it's a matter of putting in good effort in trying things. And it's not something that needs to be good. It's not something you need to be good at from the get-go. So like, let's say you start doing portraits, drawing portraits, and you start having, you actually start off having a really hard time making it look well proportioned. But as you start learning anatomy, you start learning how lighting works on organic surfaces, they start looking much better. And people say, hey, that looks more like me. And that feels good because there's improvement. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, this component is about identifying the skills that you can see yourself making good improvements and thriving in the growth. But yeah, personally speaking, because you're all young, this is not as important as the other factors. I can imagine that if it's something that you love, if this career is something you have a lot of time and willpower to devote yourself to you're definitely going to improve your skill and craft. And in summary, the idea is fulfills all these 4 components and you'll find that long-term happiness, according to the framework. So easier said than done, right? Once again, I reckon that exposure and trying a wide variety of things is the most important thing that you can do to learn to make the best decision for yourself. And I just wanted to bring this framework up to you, to just get you started on considering all of these things. Okay, and I wanted to also share with you some hard truths about entering the game industry or being a game artist. So there is a difference between liking games and developing games. Sometimes you may not want your hobby to be your job, because when your passion becomes your job, you will also have to deal with a lot of the mundane realities that accompany any career. So maybe it takes off a bit of that, rose-tinted, fantastical, like shine off of your passion. Maybe that's something to consider. And it is a competitive industry. And I think there's a lot of tendency for creatives to put a lot of themselves in their work. And when you draw, it becomes like an extension of yourself, right? So when that happens, it can be hard to handle criticism, constructive criticism or feedback. And being a creative professional, sometimes you got no creative juices flowing, and that's normal. A lot of creatives push themselves to their emotional and mental limits, which can lead to burnout, unfortunately. And it isn't always easy navigating this. So what I'm saying is, every job is going to have their own unique set of struggles. And it boils down to what you want to champion. It boils down to what you want to fight. And then we're going to move on to the happier things, the good stuff. And that's easy. You get to work on games. You get to build worlds, craft experiences for many humans from all over the world. And you get to make people feel things, right? Which to me is kind of like the height of human of the human experience. At its best, you have the potential to make people feel completely in love with the world, and it's pretty much the same feelings that all those animes, mangas, games, cartoons, and it's pretty much what those things made me feel in the past. So I just wanted to pay it forward and make other people feel that way as well. And you get to, of course, collaborate with many different folks from different disciplines. And then on the daily, I communicate with tech artists, programmers, game designers, QA testers, marketing folks. Okay, so that is for the ikigai and hard truths and good stuff part. I'm just going to take a small sip. That's what I want to talk about path to the industry. And so at this part of the presentation, it's kind of like where it's very resource heavy. I'm going to be showing you schools, learning resources, next steps that you can take if you find that game development is a path for you. Here are some ways to get started. And there are many, many different things you can do. I'll just start off firstly with probably the most obvious one, which is education. So, oh, by the way, for all these slides that are going to be shared to you, I have also added hyperlinks into each of the things that I've been mentioning. So, you know, if you want to check out, like say, for example, Republic Poly, right? You can just click on this logo here and it should hyperlink you to their website showing you the exact course that is game art related. Okay, so back to education. You can get it from many different educational institutes, and here are just the 3 polys that I know that have game art courses. It's not, none of this list is exhaustive. It's just from what I know. I know that Republic Poly in particular actually has a game dev workshop for secondary school students. So, you know, which I know some of you in the crowd might be secondary school students. So that's a way to dip your toes in. And next up, we have universities, and where you can essentially get a degree if that is something important to you. And we have NTU ADM, which encompasses a lot of different types of art, and Digipen, my alma mater, teaching animation and game art. Besides polys and unis, there are also other game art schools. So we have Mages, Fengju School of Design, and 3D Sense. Between all of these schools, I think Fengju is unique in that they only specialize in concept art. You know, so if you really want to just like hone in on that, you know, you can probably try Fengju, possibly. Nonetheless, the most important thing is every institution will do something well. They will have their own particular strengths and styles. So you need to research what each of these schools can offer you and find out which institution does what and how it aligns to what you want. And moving on, we have online courses. And I highly recommend trying out online courses about topics that you're interested in. It's kind of like going for a demo before you really invest time, effort, money into it. So yeah, just look at it. Learn the art of video games. You can learn Blender and all the other stuff that we saw here. Complete 3D artist guide for beginners. Wow. So you can go check that out. Oh, by the way, this was Udemy. Next up, if you want to, there's also this popular one called CGMA. And yeah, these are like, wow, AAA graphic stuff as well. Looks so cool. Well, we have here art, games, and VFX as well. And yeah, those are some really nice high poly sculpts. Okay, and we also have YouTube videos. So unlike, I mean, some of these courses, they're gonna be not something everyone can easily afford, right? But the great thing about YouTube is that it's free. And on the right-hand side, we have extra credits. It's something that I really, really like. I watched their game design tutorials really long ago, and I think pretty much everyone in the indie industry really respects all of these 3 sources of information. Extra credit. In the middle, we have Game Maker's Toolkit by Mark Brown. On the right, with the Game Developers Conference that releases a lot of like really good long-form lectures about very particular content, about very particular subjects, sorry. And in the middle, Game Maker's Toolkit. Yeah, it's always like really good video game essays. So you can, once again, you just click any of these windows and it'll hyperlink you to the YouTube channel. And yeah, besides the game design side, right? As game artists, we also need to do the art side of things. So here are some art channels that I love. We have Bobby Q. I think he works on things like a lot of Pixar and Disney things like Monsters Inc. And on top of like teaching you how to draw, he also talks a lot about what it means to live a fulfilling like art life, for example. So that's really nice. We have Proco. Proco, yep, definitely a lot of great drawing tutorials. I really like on the bottom left, Cynic's design, especially the anatomy quick tips. So the person there that was commenting about anatomy, if you ever want to like learn about painting anatomy, I really like how Cynic's design explores this topic. And on the bottom right, the first three that I mentioned here, they're kind of like a bit more linked to illustration and design, but the bottom right one, it talks about historical art. And so I think it's so important to have a holistic education. You have all the modern things like digital painting right now, but at the very base of that, you got to have strong fundamentals. And I think a lot of historical art teaches that, especially this video game essay here, which breaks it down. This art essay here, which really breaks down certain like key historical art pieces. All right. So yeah, and over time, like when we start watching all these videos, this is just my feed. And what would just happen is that the algorithm is just gonna work, and you're gonna just have all of these really interesting things. You're gonna discover new artists and see all these like really cool tutorials or video essays, and you can just like click from here. Yeah. So here's just a quick rundown on the most common game dev programs. We have 3ds Max, Maya, Blender as I would say the main 3D modeling software. We have Photoshop for anything that is 2D. So, your drawing, your concepting, your painting, your illustrations, storyboarding, we have that. And then we also have ZBrush, which is what you use to sculpt really high poly. And by high poly, I mean really detailed 3D sculpts. For example, like the really realistic looking characters. And I also mentioned Substance Painter earlier. So this is when you have your 3D model in Substance Painter, and you can kind of paint it as though you would in real life by rotating a 3D model and using a brush in 3D space. Yeah, these are just the programs that to familiarize yourself with. You can essentially search up these programs on the courses on YouTube that I've mentioned, and it's gonna give you so many tutorials. Okay. And next up, the next thing you can do, I think this is a really good one to get into the industry, is to get connected with the community. And SGGA is the place to go. They basically organize or are in the know or in touch with just about every single indie event, any game development event as well. And they're always updating their Discord. You can meet other people that are also interested in games. So yep, when you have the slides passed to you, you can click on the Discord link and join the Discord. There's also the Facebook group, and you can see what events they have coming up. Yeah. Okay. The next thing you can do is participate in game jams. So these are the top 3 most popular ones, I would say. I think we have Ludum Dare, Global Game Jam, and GMTK, and GMTK Game Jam. So GMTK was one of the YouTube channels I mentioned earlier, and they run their own game jam as well. And they occur at different times of the year. You just gotta Google and see what's the next one coming up. There are actually lots and lots of really small game jams as well, such as the one that I organized, Heritage Game Jam, which is actually a Singaporean one. So if you want to actually get in touch or get to know Singaporean developers in particular, or express yourself, your personal stories with a small game that you create, you could potentially sign up for this one. And we are definitely going to have Heritage Game Jam 2023 later this year. Okay. All right. So the next things we want to do is consume games. Itch.io is a site which hosts lots of small games as well. And I think it's really helpful because everyone has to start from somewhere. Sometimes when you're playing like these really beautiful AAA games and you're like getting overwhelmed, itch.io can help you stay grounded, understand that you can keep your project small and manageable, as well as be deeply rich in design and very compelling in narrative as well. And consume art. So we have some of the popular websites here. Pinterest, like I use for my mood board, where it would just, the algorithm would just work for you. If you find something you're interested in, it would just keep recommending you more things that you might be interested in. So it really helps to expand your visual vocabulary. ArtStation, I'm sure many of you might have known this already. A lot of like beautiful game art is on there. Behance, if you are actually more interested in the UI UX side of games, that's definitely, I think Behance is a great place to go for graphic designers. And yeah, so talk to the industry. Here's a cloud, many things you can do. Schools, YouTube, online courses, community, game jams, breathe art, and eat games. And yeah, I just wanted to end off with some key messages and general advice if you want to pursue game development or any sort of creative work. And the first one is a very general one that underpins every aspect of life. So, which is to question everything. And by that, I mean, always check in with yourself. Why am I doing the things I'm doing? Do I feel all right? If there's anything that you can take away from my talk, just do this. And I promise you that by being intentional about your actions, you'll naturally lead yourself down the very best route for you. So this builds self-awareness and it underpins every aspect of your life. You'll grow your connection with yourself exponentially and you'll have a greater intuition for knowing what is the right thing for you. The next thing is make opportunities happen. Be the first person to take action, to just walk one step closer to what you want to do. Go participate in that game jam. Go draw that idea down. Go ask for help. The initial steps can be hard. Like, I get it. And I can personally vouch for that. Like, the inertia really, like, you know, is usually what stops me. And, you know, when you have these thoughts, oh, I don't really want to, it's like, you know, it's like, I don't feel comfortable doing this, you know. Maybe you can try catching yourself in those moments and just think, okay, let me just try this for just 10 minutes. If I don't feel good about it, I will stop. But for now, let me just try. And then after the 10 minutes are up, you know, just check in with yourself again. Hey, was that so bad? Could you do this for a bit longer? And next thing, if you happen to enroll in school, I highly encourage you to think beyond what the school can offer you. A school can only provide some level of personalization, but ultimately there is a lot of standardized testing involved. I think you already might like get a feeling for this in your school currently or in your classes. So to really maximize your growth, customize your learning, and it can be something as straightforward as supplementing your education with more knowledge and information by learning and specializing in topics that interest you. And it could actually be something as simple as talking to your close friends about your dreams and your aspirations. And it's in that talking that can spur more ideas on how to grow yourself and find your personal path. And this can all be incredibly overwhelming. So go easy on yourself. And lastly, lead your creation with joy. Go make that game that makes you happy. Go paint the thing that brings you joy. I think as people get older, it's easy to lose touch with the feeling as we have limitations on the work-related tasks. So, you know, we get too busy to spend time on the personal project. So, as you are young now, take this opportunity to be happy and free with your self-expression. Yeah. And with that, I have come to the end of my very long presentation. My heart really goes out to all of you young creatives, and I just want to cheer you on and wish you the very absolute best in your path. Okay. And with that, the last part, at the very end, the Q&A. Okay, I am going to look through all these messages now. I bet there are so many for me. Okay, let's see here. At any point, Anu or Mikey, if you want to just cut me off or interject or anything, definitely feel free to. The room's open for that. Okay. So, I am going to start. I don't know where to start. Do I start from the beginning? Perhaps I will. Okay. Nizar asks, sorry, which education path did you go through again? Was it secondary school, JC, uni? Yes, correct. It is secondary school, JC, and then uni. I haven't really done my research on uni. There are 3D courses offered there? Yes. Okay, great. So you can see from I've already gone through that earlier, so I'm just going to move on. Okay. So I think a lot of these questions I'll also repeat. So, how do you start learning art, then progressing to 2D and 3D game art? I think I started with just drawing, and I didn't exactly have a class or school or anything in a class for it in secondary school or JC. I didn't take any art classes. I just drew by myself a lot of drawings. And progressing to 2D and 3D game art, I think that was helped a lot by going into uni for me. I think I needed that sort of formal education to just ground my learning, and they exposed me to a wide variety of different types of art. I learned storyboarding, I learned animation. I actually really love storyboarding, and I like doing illustration, But yeah, it exposed me to game art, and I was like, but that's the one. Okay, so yeah. Did I ever consider working at a local indie company instead? Yes, I did. I think that Singapore has a lot of local indie companies. Some are creating very interesting games that we can see on the Apple App Stores or what's the one for Android phones? The Play Store? I don't know. Okay, anyway, so I did consider that as well. But a part of me was like, but I always wondered what AAA is like. If I don't join it, will I regret not going there and trying it out? And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna sate my curiosity. I really wanted to try going for Ubisoft. So yeah. Okay, everyone. Is there any tips on how to get started on human anatomy? I think there are lots of resources, especially books, lots of anatomy books, and strangely enough, you might have to look at the science section of things, like a biology book, instead of the art ones as well, because they would have like really great photographs of muscles and all of that, or like scientific illustrations already. I think it's always nice to have fundamentals and understanding, just very briefly, how the muscles work, how they pull and contract. So this one you can learn from looking at some science books. I don't have like these books off the top of my head, but if you're interested, I can definitely go find the ones that I think my uni recommended. It is expensive though, but like I mentioned, Phoenix Design, you can go, I'll click on the link later, has really great anatomy tips for beginners. So yeah. Did I take O-level art? No, I did not. I actually took O-level drama. Yeah, that was a fun one. Anyway, but no, I did not take O-level art. How do I improve my art in general, and how do I find my art style? Wow, that's a really great question. I think it's like something I'm still figuring out myself. I personally don't think I haven't ever a cemented art style. I think finding your art style is something that will just come about naturally. Or at least that's what lots of people have told me. I think I'm in the same boat as you about that, actually. But nonetheless, experiencing drawing, thinking about what you like, what you dislike, being very intentional in your approach to art, I think that's going to get you to your art style. And sometimes it's not so important to like, wow, really force yourself to make it happen, I think it should be something that that comes naturally. Yeah. How do I improve my art in general? Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned, be intentional, question all the different art, question the art that you see, think about how you can change it, expose yourself to all sorts of art, expose yourself to tutorials, and yeah, that is the way to go. How do I get started with digital art? Wow. Ooh, this is a very long one. Intia, you wrote so many questions. Okay, how do I get started with digital art? Okay, I think I answered this a bit earlier. If my art isn't good, where do I go to improve my fundamentals and techniques? Yeah, I think I also mentioned this earlier in like all the different courses that you can try going for, or the YouTube videos that you can try following as well. And don't give up. Like you will get there with enough time, and just keeping your mindset open, stay positive about it, and yeah, keep trying. And then don't forget to look at what you were drawing maybe a few years back and compare it to now, and just also reflect on how far you've come as well. What fundamentals are essential for all artists? I think that's quite a hard one to the fundamentals are kind of like, rather than anatomy, shading, when we say art fundamentals, we're actually talking about really broad concepts such as composition, like direction, shape language, color theory. So it's not necessarily about anatomy or shading. Those are kind of like a bit more advanced, the very fundamental building blocks are like composition, shape design, color theory, and I think that is an understanding of that is what is essential. Okay, because there are other people asking questions, I'm gonna just look through as well. Wow, there are so many. Okay, I know that time is running over, so do feel free to go about what you have to do. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be here answering as many questions as I possibly can. Once again, Amin or Mikey, at any point of time you think it's good to wrap things up for posterity, or just let me know. Okay. Where do I find conventions, events, game jams that are happening locally, and how do I join and work with others? Check out SGGA, join game jams, and wow. Okay, let's see. This is a nice one. If I work mostly with traditional art, how do I transition to digital art? You can. Whoa, my camera's a bit. Okay, my camera is a bit blurry. Sorry about that. I think the transition would be, if you happen to have an iPad, you can try, downloading Procreate. Basically, any sort of painting software. There's Procreate for iPad, there's Photoshop as well. There are probably like the ones that I think manga enthusiasts or manga artists love is Paint Tool Side. There's also, so you can start by looking up tutorials on these types of digital painting programs and just start following it. The things that you can do in traditional art, like the very skills that you have, can easily transfer over. You just got to keep getting the muscle memory for knowing the keyboard buttons to press, the shortcut keys, knowing where to find, how to navigate the interface. So yeah. As a game artist, must be specialized in all forms of subjects. Actually, I think as a commercial artist, like an animator or a game artist, yes, we actually do have a very general understanding of a lot of things. Because what we're essentially trying to do in games is create a virtual world. We are playing God in a way, right? So we create these virtual worlds for people to feel immersed in. So because of that, like I already mentioned I'm working on Skull and Bones, and I think it's if you know the game, the trailers. Some of the trailers are already out. You know that this is a game which will have some ships in it and some pirates in it. Because of this, I now have a lot of knowledge about ships and the various anatomy of ship anatomy, for example. So yeah, still life, character creation, landscape. But I do think that if you are an indie artist, indie game artist, you generally know more. Like you generally have to cover a wider breadth of topics like 2D art, 3D art, UI, UX. But if you kind of enter into like a bigger company, there's going to be more people. So you will narrow down your specialization and just focus on like a smaller group of topics. But that is going to be very like deep as well. So you still learn a lot about that topic and just gather your expertise in that specialization. But at your current stage, I think I'm guessing you're still in the secondary school. I'm not entirely sure. Just expose yourself to many different things and see what sticks. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to move to some of others' questions. Okay, what do you do in a game jam? Oh, I should have mentioned this a bit earlier. Okay, so a game jam. I did not give context for that. Apologies. So a game jam is where people come together. There will be like artists, programmers, designers, script writers, audio folk, the sound designers. They will all come in together and try to make games over a short amount of time. And these games are not supposed to be like finished, like wow, really, really polished products. They're supposed to be small, well scoped, and something you can do over a span of a few days. And what do you do? As a game artist, you usually provide the art assets. Although because of how fast and freeform this is, very often, sometimes, you can also do some design work. You can introduce like, oh, what's an interesting mechanic? Or maybe you can even contribute in the narrative. You're like, hey, I really want this character to say this, or I think the story should go this way instead. So yeah, that's what you do. Do you think Singapore's game industry will grow, or are there more opportunities for growth in other countries as of right now? I think that Singapore games industry definitely is growing. In fact, I would say that Southeast Asia is one of like the most fastest growing in the game development industry. Are there more opportunities for growth in other countries as of right now? Unfortunately, I don't exactly have like all this information. Maybe this is something that it would be a Google away. My guess is I don't feel like I have the knowledge to answer this very well. So unfortunately, I don't know. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sichun, for your kind comment. I'm glad it helped you. And are you still studying in university or are you working? I'm already working. I'm at Ubisoft. And do you ever think of going abroad to study or work? Why did you decide to work locally? Okay, great question. I did think about studying abroad, but it's really expensive actually. Because you'll be paying, like, I think art school is quite expensive. And then on top of that, going overseas for it means you don't have any, you're a foreigner, you won't have any of the local subsidies. So I decided to just study in Singapore. Why? And as for work, yeah, I was actually at one point of time trying to find work in other, just fresh out of uni, I wanted to work in Australia because you can tell that I was very inspired by their indie scene. Unfortunately, it isn't easy for other countries to hire junior level positions who are foreigners as well, because they kind of want to encourage the growth in their own countries as well. So there isn't a lot of space for that. Maybe it'll be easier if you're like a really exceptional artist, perhaps, or if your portfolio is exactly what you're looking for, then that's great. But I did not have that sort of luck, unfortunately. So local it is. So definitely, I am keen on perhaps working overseas next time. I mean, as you gain more and more experience, and at least in Ubisoft, when you become like a mid-level position or a senior position, it's going to be a lot easier to work overseas because people are just going to want you in their team, right? Because you have so much to offer them. Oh, I do understand. So Inkia wrote here, she feels overwhelmed with all the brushes and possibilities. Like you see the blank canvas and you're like thinking, where do I begin? Where do I start? I get it. It can be really daunting. Okay, I think what you need, Inkia, is to limit yourself. Okay, so by doing that, pick a YouTube course, like a YouTube tutorial, and just follow it and just start from there. Pick one with an art style that you think looks cute or looks nice, you feel inspired by, and then just follow that tutorial. If they have a series of tutorials, follow that. And in that way, you kind of help to frame your learning and control it. Yeah, it gives you direction in that. Have you ever lost interest? If so, how did you find the passion again? Oh, okay. Have we reached the end of it, Priya? Well, okay. Before
Jewell, you can wrap up the last few questions. I'll just put this up so that our students can do the feedback as they listen to your responses. So you can wrap up the last few questions, no worries. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go find the chat again. 617. Okay. What was the question again? Have you ever lost interest, and if so, how did you find the passion again? That is a great question. Have I ever lost interest? I don't think I've ever fully lost interest with developing games or game art. But I've definitely felt burnt out. So I think this was definitely I felt this when I was going through uni because it's so wow. I think they cram a lot of information and a lot of assignments in, and I really wanted to do well in everything. So I just dedicated so much time, so much energy. I didn't have enough like rest. So I think I definitely felt like moments of stifle. And I think I was too tired to and I guess you can say that I felt too tired to create. And it was just a matter of resting up, having a well-deserved break, and then still watching all my shows, playing all my games, and seeing what other people are doing, and I think that helped rekindle that interest again. So I think it's very different for everyone on their own strategy on how they want to find that passion again. For me, I think it would be playing games, watching shows. For others, it might be talking to people about it, talking to people about art, about games. But yeah, I think definitely though, what the worst thing that you can do is to force yourself. Oh, I need to get back into this passion. Not gonna happen. Just follow your gut. Respect your mental health. Stay hydrated. Keep yourself nourished and fed. Exercise, and I think naturally as humans, we will, when we're in a good mental state, we will so-called be the best version of ourselves. And if that so-called best version of you is back to creating, it will come, I think. Yeah. Okay, I think okay, the last question is how old am I? 26. Okay, and with that, I'm going to have to wrap up this presentation. Wow, I can't believe I've been talking for like 1.5 hours. Okay, 1 hour, 22 minutes. Thank you for staying with me. to the very end if you're still here. And yeah, I really hope that this was helpful for you. And with that, have a good evening. Bye.